In the NBA, superstars are often granted certain privileges. This has almost become an unwritten rule of the league. The fact is, with their exceptional skills and dominance on the court, these players are able to lead their teams to great success, and naturally, they've earned some special treatment. Take Kevin Durant, for example. Even though he's over 30 and has dealt with significant injuries, when he moved from the Warriors to the Nets, he was still given special privileges by the Nets management. He had the power to influence coaching decisions, the ability to shape the roster, and other forms of control within the organization. So, what kind of privileges do NBA superstars typically enjoy? And how do these unwritten rules impact a team? The first unwritten rule of NBA superstars, and one of the most common, is the so-called superstar calls, which is also a typical way of creating stars. At its core, the NBA is a business, different from pure basketball competition, so giving certain superstars favorable calls isn't unexpected. A straightforward example of this is the basketball legend Michael Jordan. This isn't to undermine Jordan's greatness, but at times, it was easier for him to get a call compared to other players. Some of the contact he initiated had a higher chance of being called as a foul. During Jordan's career, there was even an instance where a referee asked him if there had been a foul. The situation was that the referee hadn't seen whether Jordan was fouled, so he asked Jordan, who confirmed that he had been hit. The referee then blew the whistle and honestly told Jordan that he hadn't seen the foul, but he trusted him. Another example is LeBron James. LeBron is undoubtedly an extraordinary player, but we can't deny that he has received some leniency when it comes to traveling violations. Throughout his career, there have been instances of LeBron getting away with travels, particularly during drives to the basket, many of which were not called by the referees. Additionally, Stephen Curry has benefited from his fair share of superstar calls. While some fans criticize the notion that Curry's shooting cylinder is untouchable, there have been numerous occasions in his career where he profited from illegal screens set by his teammates. Some of those three-point opportunities he got weren't entirely due to his cutting ability or the quality of his teammates' screens, but rather from clear offensive fouls, which also fall under the category of superstar calls. However, the NBA's superstar calls have a balancing factor. The same stars who benefit during their rise will eventually experience the flip side of it. For instance, both LeBron and Curry have seen moments in the later stages of their careers where fouls almost never get called, even when the contact is obvious, to the point where some plays have become hard to watch. Similarly, James Harden, who used to get favorable treatment from referees, saw the tide turn when his performance significantly declined, and he even became a poster child for new rule changes. Meanwhile, their opponents, the younger superstars, begin to enjoy the same treatment that these veterans once did. Players like SGA, Embiid, and Luka are nearly untouchable in certain situations. Embiid, in particular, draws a whistle almost every time he gets hit, averaging over 11 free throws per game for 3 consecutive seasons, which is remarkable. This pattern of preferential officiating, where some players benefit while others decline, is viewed by many fans as not necessarily related to ability or status, but rather a result of the league's star-building decisions, leading to widespread discussion. The second unwritten rule is that star players often get involved in team trades. In theory, no matter how big or talented a franchise player is, trades should not be their domain. However, due to the commercial value of NBA superstars and the league's operating dynamics, many well-known stars do participate in team trades to varying degrees, and the bigger the star, the more involved they tend to be. Many people believe this trend of player involvement in trades started with LeBron James, but that's not actually the case. While LeBron is famous for being involved in team building, there were several instances before him where stars had a say in trades. A well-known example in modern times is from before the 1997 NBA draft, when the Chicago Bulls were planning to trade Scottie Pippen for a draft pick to select T-Mac. However, when Michael Jordan found out about this, he strongly opposed the trade. As a result, the deal fell through, and T-Mac missed out on the opportunity to succeed Jordan on the Bulls. That said, this unwritten rule of superstars being involved in trades reached its peak with LeBron James. He was the first superstar to be jokingly referred to as a GM. Before returning to Cleveland in 2014, and with LeBron's input, the Cavaliers made a series of trades, acquiring the perfect fit for LeBron's 4-out 1-in system in stretch 4 Kevin Love. Midway through the season, they also brought in 3-and-D players like J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert from the Knicks. LeBron essentially built a team around his ball-dominant playstyle. This approach was highly successful, as LeBron led the Cavaliers to 4 straight finals appearances. Kevin Durant also enjoys being involved in team-building decisions. After joining the Brooklyn Nets in 2019, Durant helped recruit several key players to the team, including LaMarcus Aldridge and Patty Mills. Even the hiring of head coach Steve Nash had his approval, as the two had worked together in Golden State. Upon joining the Suns, KD continued to be involved in team trades, playing a significant role in the Chris Paul for Bradley Beal trade. At the time, KD provided the front office with a list of potential targets when he learned Paul was being traded. The Suns ultimately decided on Beal, and KD himself has mentioned in interviews that he enjoys being involved in team construction and trade decisions. The third unwritten rule involves defense. Due to the heavy offensive load superstars carry, they often receive defensive privileges. For instance, they may be assigned to guard weaker offensive players, typically standing in the corner against spot-up shooters with limited scoring ability. In some cases, to further reduce their defensive workload, they're positioned in the weak side corner. This way, when the action is happening on the strong side, these superstars can simply stand in the corner and wait for the play to unfold. This is still within acceptable limits, as even the best players have physical limits. Trying to carry both the offense and defense for an entire game would inevitably impact their offensive performance. But what's even more egregious is the next level of defensive leniency. Some superstars essentially engage in lookaway defense, especially during the regular season, where they're more or less just spectators on defense. The most famous example, of course, is James Harden during his time with the Rockets. He had plenty of moments where his defensive effort was so minimal that it seemed like he wasn't playing in the game at all, but simply standing on the court daydreaming. However, Harden has proven that when he puts in the effort, he can defend seriously, even against players like Giannisantetokounmpo. LeBron James is another example. As an elite help defender, LeBron typically doesn't take defense too seriously during the regular season, often allowing opponents to score uncontested layups while conserving his energy. For LeBron, the key is to save his energy for the playoffs, which is where the term playoff LeBron comes from. Two notable current examples are Luka and Embiid. In non-crucial moments during the regular season, Luka has often been blown by on the perimeter. These plays aren't just a result of his lateral quickness, he's conserving energy for offense. The Mavericks' defensive system, designed by Jason Kidd, is built to cover for Luka's defensive shortcomings. As for Embiid, if you compare his defense in the regular season versus the playoffs, it's like watching two different players. In the playoffs, Embiid is aggressive, constantly engaged, and providing excellent help defense. But during the regular season, he often makes only symbolic defensive efforts, and at times, appears slower than even Nikola Jokic. Aside from the previously mentioned unwritten rules, a new concept has emerged in recent years in the NBA, load management, which is a privilege that several superstars have utilized. If we talk about the pioneers of load management, it inevitably involves a group of Spurs-related players. Coach Greg Popovich became famous for resting his players, carefully managing the workloads of Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and later Kawhi Leonard. Specifically, Leonard revolutionized the concept of load management. Before him, most superstars in their prime, barring injury, would only sit out games towards the end of the regular season if their playoff seeding was already secured, allowing them to conserve energy and ensure they were in peak condition for the playoffs. However, after suffering significant injuries during his time with the Spurs and later being traded to the Raptors, Leonard began sitting out specific regular season games as part of his load management plan. He would rest during certain back-to-back games or on long road trips to prevent overloading his body. This approach caught on, and soon other NBA superstars followed suit. In the seasons that followed, players like Curry, Embiid, LeBron, KD, and Giannis Antetokounmpo also engaged in load management. From the perspective of the players and teams, load management, or even occasionally skipping practices, seems reasonable. After all, the regular season doesn't carry the same weight as the playoffs for championship contending teams. However, from the league and fans' perspective, this practice undoubtedly hurts viewership and disappoints fans who travel long distances to watch their favorite players. For example, in the 2022-23 season, when the Warriors visited the Cavaliers, Coach Steve Kerr rested Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Andrew Wiggins. After the game, a fan held up a sign that sparked widespread debate, which read, "Traveled 809 miles to take my son to see Curry sit the bench." To address this unwritten rule, the NBA implemented a policy last season that fines teams if a star player rests without a valid reason. However, fines of several $100,000 are barely a deterrent for max-salary superstars. In response, the NBA further introduced the rule that players must appear in at least 65 games to be eligible for regular season awards. That being said, it must be acknowledged that the practice of load management among superstars is likely to continue for a long time into the future. In addition to opposing the NBA itself, superstars also have absolute influence over the coaching staff's tactical decisions. The final unwritten rule we're discussing today is the power of veto over tactics. Historically, NBA players have had more influence than coaches, which explains why many legendary NCAA coaches, like Coach K, have been reluctant to enter the NBA. Superstars often possess a deep understanding of the game and the ability to read the situation on the court. When the ball is in the hands of players like Chris Paul, LeBron James, or Kobe Bryant, coaches often leave the decision-making to the stars, allowing them to use their judgment to close out the game. But what happens when a coach's play conflicts with the superstar's vision? Both Michael Jordan and LeBron James have encountered this scenario. In Game 5 of the 1989 first-round playoff series between the Chicago Bulls and Cleveland Cavaliers, with the Bulls down by 1 point and only 3 seconds left, the Bulls faced elimination if they lost. With possession of the final shot, Coach Doug Collins called a timeout and drew up a play for Dave Corzine, who was shooting just 1 for 4 that game, to take the last shot. This decision immediately angered Jordan. He slapped Collins' clipboard and yelled, "Give me the damn ball." In the end, Jordan confidently took the shot and hit what would become known as the shot, a game winner that sent the Bulls forward. Collins was fired after the season. LeBron's situation is even more familiar to most. In Game 4 of the 2015 Eastern Conference semifinals, the Cavaliers faced the Bulls. Down 1-2 in the series, the game was tied 84-84 with 1.5 seconds left. Cavs coach David Blat drew up a play for LeBron to inbound the ball, but LeBron refused. He said, "To be honest, I scratched the play, and I told the coach, just give me the ball." LeBron received the inbound pass in the corner, nailed the game-winning shot, and saved the Cavs from the brink of elimination. Like Collins, Blat was also gone the next season. These examples show that when there's a conflict between a superstar and the coach, the management will almost always side with the superstar. After all, most fans come to the game to see the star players, not the coach. Of course, these 5 unwritten rules of superstardom are just the most famous examples, but there are many more. It's these unwritten rules that contribute to the unique charm of the NBA. What other unwritten rules of superstars do you know about?